Questions that can be answered by yes or no in English are simple and straightforward. You take your standard non-question and switch around the subject and verb. So, you are hungry. That's the statement. Becomes, are you hungry? That's the question. They have eaten already becomes, have they eaten already? And sometimes you need to put a form of do at the beginning, like she likes Latin. Is asked, does she like Latin? Well, of course she does. You can also just change the tone of your voice, inflect it upwards, and although this to me sounds more like a statement of disbelief, it's still a question. She likes Latin? No, that doesn't work. How about she likes math? That's better. This video will show you how to make yes or no questions in Latin. So as I said before, English uses word order to make a question with a yes or no answer. But as you probably know, word order in Latin is a lot more fluid, so this wouldn't work. Instead, Latin uses an enclitic. An enclitic is a word or a bit of word that's placed at the end of another word that has some grammatical meaning. In English, an enclitic is something like the nt at the end of can't, or the apostrophe s to show possession, like in the boy's shirt. In Latin, the enclitic is an ne, ne, put at the end of the first word in the sentence. So something like this, mene pulchram putas? Do you think I'm beautiful? Even if we rearrange our word order, which we can do because this is Latin, the ne still falls at the end of the first word. Putasne me pulchram? Here's another. Spectabatis ne gladiatores? Were you all watching the gladiators? But what if you have an idea of what the answer to the question is? So say you're pretty sure the answer is yes. Instead of just putting a ne on the end of the first word, you would instead use nonne to introduce the question. Nonne gladiatore spectabatis? Now it's a bit trickier to translate. We can't just switch around the subject and the verb because the expected answer here is a yes, an itavero or recte. So instead in English, we do a couple of different things. You can phrase the question as a statement and then add right to the end. So, you were watching the gladiators, right? You can also start the question with a surely. Surely you were watching the gladiators? And the expectation of that is a yes. Or, you were watching the gladiators, weren't you? But if you expect the answer to be no, you would use the particle num instead of nonne. Num canes te teruerunt? The dogs didn't frighten you, did they? Notice instead that I negated the statement and asked the question again. You can also use a surely not. Surely the dogs didn't frighten you. And the expected answer is no, they didn't. And so let's recap. Ne is put at the end of the first word of a sentence of a yes or no question, with no obvious expectation that the answer should be yes or no. Nonne is put at the beginning of the sentence when the expected answer is yes, and num is used at the beginning of the sentence when the expected answer is no. So it's pretty easy to confuse nonne and num, so I just remember it like this. Nonne is longer than num, just like yes is longer than no. But just because the expectation is no or yes doesn't mean that that's what the answer has to be. The answer can surprise the questioner. It's just that the uses of num and nonne show us what the person asking the question is thinking. Num serios es? Surely you can't be serious. Expects a no. But it's perfectly okay to answer this with, I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.